December the 1st, 1997, I was a sophomore in high school. I was 15 years old, and I went to school like any normal day. December 1st, it was right after Thanksgiving. We had all just got done with break, so we had about 4 days off of school. And when I got back to school that morning, I would always go to prayer circle. We had a prayer circle in our lobby that we would all go and right before school started. That morning was like any other morning, nothing looked out of the ordinary. But as soon as we said amen, a 14-year-old boy pulled a gun out of his backpack and began to shoot at us. At the time, I didn't know what was going on. I had no clue what was going on. I didn't see him with the gun, and I didn't see anything, but I did see someone get shot. But when I saw it, I thought that it was something that wasn't real, that it was just a joke. This kind of thing doesn't happen in school, so, I didn't know what was going on. I was hit in my left shoulder, and it hit my lung, and my spinal cord came out the right side of my back. When it hit me, I didn't have any clue what had hit me because, of course, like I said, I didn't see the gun. But my twin sister was there with me that morning, and she crawled over and laid on top of me. And she had seen the gun and knew what was going on, but she had no clue if I was shot or anything like that. As soon as he was done shooting, she kept staring and looking at something, and I kept asking her what was going on, and she said, "There's a gun," and I was like, "There's a gun in school?" I couldn't believe it. And then I asked her who had it, and she finally told me who had it, and that's when I told her that I knew I'd been shot. The only thing that I could tell was that I couldn't feel my stomach. That was the first thing that I could tell. And she didn't know what that meant, and I didn't know what that meant, so we instantly were really worried and scared. We saw another one of my friends that was there that morning, and she was holding her shoulder, and she'd been grazed on the shoulder, and she was crying, so my sister told me, "Stay here, be strong, don't die, I'll be back for you." So I was like, okay. So she went to check on my friend, and then she came back, and my friend and her talked to me for a little while, trying to keep me awake, and then something happened, and my sister had to leave me, so I was there by myself. A teacher came over and knelt down beside me and started to pray. At that point, I kind of started to get scared. I started to question whether I was going to live or if I was going to die, because I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know where I was shot or what was going on, and I had no clue. I asked her if I was going to die, and she told me, no, you're not going to die, you're going to be fine. And then I told her, well, I'm paralyzed, I can't move anything. And she said, no, you're not paralyzed, you're just in shock, you'll be fine. And I was like, no, I can't move, I know I'm paralyzed. Just a little while later after that, she had to leave me because there was another girl who needed some assistance who had been shot. And I started to get really tired, and somebody came over to talk to me. I don't remember who it was, but they kept telling me to keep my eyes open and not to close them. And they had to leave me, and I ended up closing my eyes, but I must have been passed out for a while. I don't know how long, but I woke up, and there was a girl laying down beside me that wasn't laying there before. She didn't even know she was shot. She was walking around helping people, and she was shot the exact same place I was. But the thing was that she was bleeding internally and had no clue that she was shot. And so she started to get sick, and they told her to lay down on the ground, and so she laid down. After that, I basically just laid on the ground and waited for an ambulance to come get me, because I knew that I didn't need to move because I didn't know what was wrong with me. Finally, the ambulance came to get me and the other people, and I was taken to the hospital and into the emergency room where they put a chest tube in me, IVs, all different kinds of things like that because of the bullet had hit my lung. They did a pinprick test where they take a needle and they poke it on your skin and ask you if you can feel it or not, and I couldn't. So then that's when they confirmed that I was paralyzed, but I knew that I already was because I couldn't feel anything from my chest down. After that, then they moved me into ICU. Later on, I found out that 3 people were killed and 5 people were injured, and I was one of the most seriously injured. Whenever it did happen, the first person I saw get shot was shot in the head, and she died instantly. Another one of my friends knew what was going on, and she was running away, and she was shot in the back of the head. And then the girl that was laying down beside me that was bleeding internally died in surgery. And my friend ended up living. She had a graze on the shoulder, and she was fine. There was also another boy who was grazed on the head, another boy who was grazed on the neck, and a girl that was shot in the neck. And it paralyzed her hand, and she was a senior that year, and she had a basketball scholarship, and she wasn't able to take it. But they offered her a soccer scholarship, so she played soccer since she couldn't use her hand. So it just kind of worked out for her that way. But she did end up regaining the use of her hand. It's not completely the same, but it's she regained a lot of it. But now I'm paralyzed from my chest down, right here down. I can't feel anything, and the sensation of being paralyzed is really, really weird. You know, I can tell that my legs are there, and when I touch my legs, it feels like I'm touching somebody else's legs. I don't feel it at all. And I can't feel anything like that from my chest down, so basically I can just feel my arms and everything up from there. And it's just a weird sensation to not be able to feel your legs and your arms, below your arms. And then, you know, I consider myself very lucky though, because it could have been worse. I was shot so high. I was shot right up here. There's just a little spot left on it. There's a little purple dot. I guess that's kind of where the gunpowder was. And then it came out the right side of my back, but I didn't have to have a surgery or anything like that because they found the bullet in my shirt in the back, so it didn't even pass all the way through my shirt. But it did go all the way through my body. I consider myself very lucky because I was shot in the exact same place the girl was that bled internally, and I'm still here, thank goodness. It's been 7 years now since it's happened. The 14-year-old boy was like any other kid that went to my school. I would have never picked him out as somebody that would have done something like that. He was somebody that everyone would have thought would have been the class clown or something like that. He was funny and nice, and I liked him. And I thought, some people didn't like his humor. They would tell him, that they thought he was stupid and stuff like that, and they would make fun of him for it. But to him, he felt like he wasn't respected, so he thought if I bring a gun to school and I show everybody that I have this gun and I can use it, then they'll all be scared of me. The only thing that it got him is that he's going to be in jail for the rest of his life. He was 14 when it happened, and now he's 21 years old, and he's still in jail. And he's in LaGrange, Kentucky right now, in a jail with a lot of people that have done very, very bad things like he has done. He's going to be in jail for 25 years to life now. And all because he thought that if he brought a gun to school, he could change things, that he could make things better. He thought people weren't taking him seriously, so he thought if I bring this gun to school, they'll take me seriously. But it didn't solve his problems. He's in jail now for the rest of his life. He doesn't have the freedoms that you guys have. You guys are able to go to school and go home and see your mom and dad every day, or see your brothers and sisters, your friends. You get to go out and play basketball or football or whatever it is you guys like to do. I played soccer that year, and of course, me being paralyzed, I couldn't play it anymore. But he doesn't have those freedoms. He's stuck in jail for the rest of his life because he thought that if he brought a gun to school, he could change things. He actually brought the gun 2 weeks before it even happened, and he pulled it out on 2 boys in the band room, and they laughed at him because they thought, he wouldn't do something like this. He wouldn't do anything to us. And they told him that that wouldn't hurt anybody at 22. And he also told people not to come to prayer circle that morning because he said that something big was going to happen. And he told certain people. But when people heard that, they just instantly thought, oh, he's not being serious like he usually isn't. And nobody said anything. Nobody said that he had a gun at school, and nobody said that he was making these threats because they all thought that something like that doesn't happen in school. And I know that we all know now that it's something that it can happen, because in '97, on December the 1st, I had never heard of anybody doing that in a school. Our school was we thought it was so safe that we wouldn't put locks on our lockers or anything like that. I trusted everybody in there in our school. But that's one of the messages that I want to bring to you guys. If somebody threatens, or even someone heard from somebody that they're going to bring a gun to school, it is so important to tell. If somebody would have told that morning, maybe I would still be walking. Maybe I would have gotten to play soccer, or maybe I would be walking right now. But it did happen to me, and I feel like it happened for a purpose, though, that I'm able to go to different schools and tell them what happened to me. And I think that I'm a pretty good visual for what violence can do, because I am in a wheelchair, and the doctors have told me that it's possibly for the rest of my life. And I never thought that anything would happen to me like that at the age of 15 years old. I thought that, I didn't know what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. That didn't even pop into my head. And, I didn't even think of the fact that I was even going to go to college or anything like that. But when something traumatic like that happens to you, you realize that you can't take your life for granted. And you can't take people around you for granted. And that's why I wanted to also talk to you guys about bullying. The boy that shot at us at my school said that he was made fun of. I know that when he was in middle school, they wrote some kids in the newspaper, journalism class wrote some incriminating stuff about him and put it in the newspaper, and nothing was done about it. But everybody joked with him, and he joked with other people that they thought that it wasn't that big of a deal. People would say things to him and not take him seriously and say, "You're stupid," and all this kind of stuff, and laugh at him about it. But he would try to hide it by bullying other people and trying to take it on his own. I brought with me, I've done a lot of research on bullying since I've been in college, because I've seen in all different school shootings that bullying has been a factor. The kids that have brought these guns to school and said these things have said that, that they were bullied, that people had done this to them. And they thought that that's what they needed to do to make things better, because they felt that adults wouldn't listen to them. But that's not true, though. Adults will listen to you. If you go tell a trusted adult, they will help you. And bullying isn't just physical. Bullying is verbal, too. And then physical at the same time. Somebody tripping somebody, or somebody, even, just whatever you just say to somebody. And you should always use that golden rule, treating each other like you would want to be treated, because it is honestly true. I know that I saw him get made fun of, but I never did anything about it. And that's being a bystander. And being a bystander is just as bad as being the person who's bullying, because if you're sitting there and you're watching what is going on to that kid who's being bullied, you're just fueling the fire for the bully, for that kid, because if they think that you're sitting there looking at them bullying this kid, and they think that it's funny, and they think that you think it's funny, then they think what they're doing is right, and then it's okay. And then sometimes we watch other kids being bullied, and we think that it's okay, or that kid must have done something to deserve that kind of treatment, which is not true. Nobody deserves to be treated that way. Nobody deserves to be treated that way. If I would have known that morning that those 3 girls at my school were going to die, maybe I would have talked to them more. Maybe I would have said something to them, because they were really nice people. You never know when something's going to happen to you. At our age, we're not invincible. Something can happen. So you need to treat each other with kindness. You don't bully each other and treat each other badly. And then if you think somebody's going to bring a gun to school, you can tell it's okay, and don't worry about being wrong. If somebody would have told, maybe I would still be walking again today, and maybe the 3 girls that died would still be here. But it has happened, and I'm trying to use that as a positive way to show other people that I don't want them to have that to happen to any of them. It's something that I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. I don't think there's a day that I don't wake up and look at my wheelchair and remember why I'm in it. Because a boy brought a gun to school and thought he could make things better by shooting at us. I don't think there's a day that I'll ever forget it. But then at the same time, it kind of was awakening to me to know that, that I'm not invincible. Things can happen in my life, and things can change. I think that ever since that, right when I got into the hospital, I went to physical therapy where I had to learn to live my life in a wheelchair. I was 15 at the time. I hadn't learned how to drive or anything like that, so I've never been able, I'm able to drive, but I have to use hand controls. I've never been able to use my feet or try to drive that way. I've just always driven with my hand. When I was put into the hospital first, they had to teach me basically how to live my life again. I had to learn how to put my clothes on, which took me about 45 minutes for the first time to learn how to put my clothes on. I had to learn how to sit up again. I had to learn how to become independent. At first I couldn't even take a shower on my own because I couldn't go from my wheelchair into a shower chair or something like that. I had to have somebody. So I felt like my independence was taken away at the time. I was in the hospital for 5 months trying to get better. I came here to Lexington and went to Cardinal Hill for physical therapy for about 3 months. And they did wonderful things for me. They taught me how to basically live my life where I can be independent. And I came here and did that for a while. And so I missed my entire sophomore year because I was in the hospital. And then I was there for my entire junior year. But when I became a senior, I was able to go to Los Angeles and learn how to walk in a brace. And the brace was really, really wonderful for me because I was able to stand up and dance at prom. I was able to walk across the stage for graduation. And it's not a cure. What it is that it's a brace that fits along my body, and it locks at the knees and the hips, and it straightens me up, and I use a walker to walk with it. It's something that I can't use every day. It's mostly just for exercise, but it gives me the chance to stand up, and it keeps my body ready for if there's going to be a cure in spinal cord injuries coming along. And I really honestly think that something like that will happen soon because they're progressing every day. Before I was in a wheelchair, I was like you guys. I could walk, all that kind of stuff. I know what it was like to walk. But now that I'm in a wheelchair, I kind of see that side too. I remember before this had happened to me, I'd always had that mentality of, don't look at people in wheelchairs because you're not supposed to, that kind of thing. And then I thought that people in wheelchairs, all they do is just sit there, which is completely not true. I just told you guys that I can drive. I've also water skied, jet skied, rode a horse, all that kind of stuff. Things, I climbed a tree, like things that you would never think that you could do if you couldn't use your legs. But honestly, I've learned that I can do anything, and that I wasn't going to let this hold me down just because I was paralyzed. So, I'm just adjusting to it, but it's something that I might have to live with for the rest of my life. At the same time, at the decision that he made. And it has changed my community. It has changed the school. Everybody was trusting each other to where they put a fence around our school. Everybody locks their stuff in their lockers. People are being checked. Their bags and stuff like that. And so it's kind of scary, though, a place where, I thought that I was safe, that things changed. But you can make it safe. You can take care of each other, and you can tell. But I want to thank you guys for having me here. And at this time, I'll take any questions anybody has. If anybody has anything, I'll answer anything. Thank you.